When you buy a glass of vitamin pills, you have an expectation that it contains exactly the amount of active substances that it says. Deviations must be in milligrams. When you buy a bag of potatoes that says 1 kilo, the weight must be around a kilo. If the weight had to be exactly 1 kilogram, it would take a long time to find the right potatoes to fill the last grams in the bag, and the time consumed would likely increase the price of the potatoes. When we talk about service, it is said that McDonald's has standardized their Big Mac all over the world. There's actually a Big Mac index for a number of countries, which gives a clue as to the cost of living solely on the basis of the price of a Big Mac. They have standardized the product and in fact the whole service concept. It doesn't have to be quite so rigorous in all service companies, but if you want customers to return, they have to have some idea of what to expect. Measuring the quality of a service can be a very difficult exercise. As opposed to a tangible product for which there are specific characteristics as length, depth, width, weight, color, etc., a service has many intangibles or qualitative specifications as the atmosphere or courtesy. That is what a service provider tries to communicate to customers by means of external communication, also called marketing. In addition, there is an expectation from the customer with regard to the service, which can vary significantly based on a variety of factors such as previous experience, personal needs, and what other people might have told them. The 5 service quality dimensions that the researchers behind the GAP model found are used as an explanation of the anticipation and experience of almost all services. And that is why it is those a service provider can adjust in order to seek to obtain a positive evaluation of the service quality from the customer. To find out more precisely where things are not going so well, the same researchers have also found that within the 5 quality dimensions, there are 22 areas that are quite common for most types of services. The 22 statements are assembled in a table which is called the Servqual questionnaire. Let's take a look at how to use it. If the company you wish to investigate, for example, is a pizzeria, you first need to choose a certain number of customers that are part of the desired target group. You ask each respondent to assess the 22 statements, first based on the customer's expectations to pizzerias in general, and afterwards using the next part of the questionnaire to assess the same areas about the experience they have had with your pizzeria. This gives you a knowledge of the difference there is in the customer's expectations and the customer's perceived or experienced service quality in 22 areas. If you only ask one customer, it is easy to get an overview of the answers. But if you ask 20 customers or more, you will need to get the results into a spreadsheet and calculate the average figures so you can get a comprehensive overview of customer expectations and experiences of service quality. And yes, you do have to ask a fair share of customers, because to change something just because one customer is dissatisfied is not a good solution either. But for simplicity's sake, let's assume that you're asking one customer and he answers 7 to all expectations regarding the industry and 2 to all the actual experiences with your company. Open the Excel sheet Servqual calculations from Moodle and enter the results in the tab Calculation Unweighted. If you put it into a chart, it would visually clearly seem that you should adjust equally on all areas. But customers do not necessarily emphasize equally on all facets of a service. So if you were to just look at all the answers as they've been punched in by you and adjust accordingly in the area that seemed to lack the most, it might be a wasted effort. It may be that customers that order a pizza generally puts more emphasis on reliability, that they get the crispy crust that they've been promised, than on empathy, that the pizza baker can empathize with the customer's situation. Therefore, you should ask the customer to fill in a form where he distributes 100 points on the 5 service quality dimensions. In the Excel worksheet, select the tab Calculation Weighted and now enter all the respondents' importance distribution. Let us just say that they look like this. That way you can calculate a weighted gap score, so the figures you get is the relative importance that dimension has to the customer. The calculations are shown in figures below the typing area, but you just need to click on the tab that reads Diagram. Here you can now at the top see the chart of the company's gap scores, and it is clear that in this case it is the service dimension reliability that has the largest gap. If you scroll down a bit, you can clearly see the difference between the unweighted and weighted results. Although the customers in this case had the same Servqual scores in all dimensions and areas, they have also assessed which dimensions are more important to them. And it is for this reason that the most significant gap for the company in this example is reliability, while the gap for empathy is not very large. And remember, a company cannot just close gap 5. Once consumer gaps are found, the company must identify what it is in gap 1 to 4 that causes customer gaps. Only when these gaps are closed, the customer gap closes, and it can be controlled by conducting a second analysis using the Servqual questionnaire. It is therefore a good idea to periodically conduct a Servqual analysis in order to keep an eye on whether the company's service meets customer expectations. Some service providers also conduct the analysis asking about a competitor instead of their own business in order to benchmark themselves compared to competitors. When you regularly complete a Servqual analysis, you have a tool that can help your company to get a more standardized measurement of your service. Here's a short summary. It's often easy to measure whether a tangible product such as vitamin pills fulfills what a company has told about the product because one can weigh it, measure the active content, and see the color. The quality of a service is more intangible and therefore can be difficult to measure, and at the same time the expectations of individual customers are different. By applying the 5 dimensions of service quality and asking relevant questions within 22 different topics, a service provider can uncover the customer's expectations for the relevant industry in general, and then the customer's perception or experience of a specific company. You can make calculations of the data and put them up in visual charts and graphs, and thus get a clear overview of where the company's service quality have fallouts. This knowledge you can then use to take a closer look at what you may do to close gap 1 to 4 in the gap model. When you believe that these have been closed, you can conduct the Servqual analysis again to control if the customer gap, gap 5, has been closed.